Parasite, a depiction of wealth in society. Mark Sheehan, Sociology 101. Why you should watch Parasite. The award-winning film Parasite is worthy of the time and attention of any student of sociology. It depicts the stark differences caused by wealth inequality and the effects of decisions poor people must often make while trying to break out of the often desperate circumstances in which they find themselves. Director Bong Joon-ho gives viewers a clue and summary of his message in the film's title. People can be parasites on each other. More specifically, wealthy people can be parasites on their poorer servants by leeching off of their labor and time. At the same time, the poor can be driven to leech off each other through desperate competition for jobs serving the wealthy, which hinders their chances of ever breaking out of their social and economic circumstances. The dog-eat-dog infighting among them only hurts them. And too often, the wealthy can be ignorant, maybe not uncaring, but just too busy or too focused on themselves to worry that much about their poorer help. The help at the wealthy's beck and call above all else, as seen in the film. Up to order, down to chaos. One subtle touch used in Parasite was the use of going up and down stairs, driveways, or hills to show how one was either proceeding up to the orderly and beautiful world of the wealthy or down to the chaotic and cluttered world of the poor. Characters always went up to the Park home, up to the privileged areas, but down to the Kim home, and even further down to where Mr. O lived in the most desperate circumstances of anyone in the film, the secret basement bunker. The use of light also helped communicate a sense of status. The Kims didn't have enough light in their home, while the Parks had plenty, and Mr. O barely had any at all. Light also meant hope. Mr. O could communicate using the lights in the Park home, and when Mr. Kim was forced to seek refuge in the bunker near the end of the film, he too used the lights in the house to get word to his son that he was still alive and what happened to him. Of course, the actors themselves conveyed the film's messages powerfully. We see how the Kims schemed their way into jobs through forgery, deceit, and by taking advantage of their patrons' gullibility. They celebrated, reminding themselves that they had jobs at a time when a single security guard position would get 500 applications from college graduates. Social mobility was nearly impossible, but they were on their way. The rain scene. One of the most important scenes in Parasite from a sociological perspective is the rainfall scene. For the Park family, the rain merely ruins their son's birthday camping trip. It's an irritation, nothing more, as they return to their home and their son takes the opportunity to camp in the backyard. For the Kim family, their employees, the rain is a disaster. It causes a flood which destroys their semi-basement home and many of their possessions. They're forced to seek refuge in a gym with hundreds of their neighbors, not knowing when or if they can return home and where they can find clothing, food, or other basic necessities. Their chances of escaping their social and economic situation are desperate, and the Parks are blissfully unaware, just focused on themselves. Crossing the line. Another significant scene in the film is a discussion the Parks have about the smells of the poor. It was sparked by the smell of Mr. Kim, which Mr. Park said crossed the line for him. It powers right through into the back seat. Mr. Park then went on to describe how poor people have a special smell about them, showing what Mr. Park really thinks about the people who work for him. He's better than them in any way. He can't be bothered to drive himself, but he's still better than the man who drives him around at his beck and call. One more scene that illustrates the differences between the wealthy and the poor and also shows how the poor can be basically locked into a lower status was the party scene. The Parks were occupied in planning an elaborate birthday party for their 9-year-old boy, while relying on their Kim family servants to do all the work for them. They assumed the Kims would be able to show up at their summons. We see Mrs. Park select an outfit from a massive walk-in closet, while the Kims were trying to gather what clothes they could from the donations to the refugee center since they'd been flooded out of their home, reduced to nearly nothing. The Kim's family's hopes for moving up in the world had just been wrecked by a deluge, and they had to spend their time toiling at the Park's home with the promise of just a little more money. A picture is worth 1,000 words, and Parasite offers many on the topics of wealth inequality and social mobility. Viewers can see how people use others without regard for their own well-being, so long as they can get ahead or doing fine, all is well. The contrast between the Parks and the Kims showed how different life can be for the wealthy and the poor who work for them. The scheme the Kims employ to acquire their jobs show what people can do just to try to break out of their economic and social circumstances. The desperation of Mr. O's situation in Secret Bunker shows how trying life can be for people who have lost their place in life. As I stated at the beginning of the video, I recommend Parasite for students of sociology. Its cast and director do a fine job of communicating how striking wealth inequality can be for people, what it drives them to do, and how it affects the lives of others. One can see how people spend their daily lives, be it rich or poor, with hope of improving their lot in life, or with only a faint hope or no hope at all. If one wants to see how the other half lives, the film Parasite offers quite a lens for doing so.